300 feet beneath the surface of the Baltic Sea, something sits in the darkness that shouldn't exist. It's 60 meters across, perfectly circular, with straight edges, sharp right angles, and a 300-meter track trailing behind it like a runway. When the first sonar image surfaced in 2011, the world stopped and stared. Because what they saw looked unmistakably like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars resting on the ocean floor. But this isn't science fiction, this is real, and 14 years later, we still don't know what it is. Welcome to the Baltic Sea Anomaly. The Baltic Sea doesn't seem like a place for mysteries, it's familiar, contained. The world's largest brackish water basin, nestled between Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. For centuries, sailors have crossed these waters. Fishermen have dragged their nets across the seabed. Scientists have mapped every meter, or so they thought. In June 2011, a Swedish treasure hunting team called OceanX was doing what they do best, scanning the seafloor for sunken ships and lost cargo. Led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg, they'd already made headlines before. They'd found a 17th-century warship with golden chariots, a steamer carrying 1,000 bottles of 1917 cognac, even Fabergé eggs worth $84 million, but nothing prepared them for what their side-scan sonar would capture that day. At 90 meters depth, roughly the height of a 30-story building, something circular appeared on their screens. 60 meters in diameter, that's 200 feet across, larger than a Boeing 747's wingspan, and it had edges, straight edges, sharp corners. The kind of geometry that doesn't occur in nature. The rules of reality start to bend when you look closer at this thing. First, there's the shape, perfectly circular, with what appears to be stair-like formations on one side, and trailing behind it, a 300-meter flattened path that looks for all the world like a landing strip. Then there's the surface, black, scorched-looking, as if something had burned its way through the water and into the stone below. When the team finally descended in 2012, 90 meters down into the crushing pressure and absolute dark, they collected samples. Black stones from the structure's surface. What they found only deepened the mystery. The rocks were granites, gneisses, sandstones, typical of glacial basins, yes, but mixed with basaltic volcanic rock that had no business being there. It was as if materials from completely different geological eras had been gathered and arranged. But here's where it gets truly strange. Above the anomaly, their equipment started failing. Satellite phones, dead. Within 200 meters of the object, they just stopped working. Cameras refused to function directly above the site. The team detected a 40 megahertz signal emanating from somewhere nearby, and then they found something else. 200 meters away, a second anomaly, similar, unexplained, connected somehow. The theories multiplied. Geologists suggested glacial deposits, rocks dragged and dropped by ancient ice sheets. But that didn't explain the perfect geometry. Oceanographers proposed fishing trawler sediment buildup, but that wouldn't account for the arranged rings of stone. Underwater archaeologist Andreas Olsson looked at the images and saw something that appeared cut, molded, manufactured. And then there were the other theories, the ones that made headlines. Within months of the discovery, tabloid newspapers ran with the most sensational possibility of all, a crashed UFO. The Millennium Falcon comparison wasn't accidental, the circular shape, the runway behind it, the electrical interference that seemed to affect equipment, it all fit a narrative that captured imaginations worldwide. Artist Hauki Vogt created detailed 3D interpretations that showed a structured craft, complete with what looked like entry points and geometric precision. The images went viral. The story spread, and the OceanX team found themselves at the center of a global mystery. Dennis Osberg, speaking to reporters, was unequivocal. "I am 100% convinced and confident that we have found something that is very, very, very unique." He floated possibilities. A meteorite, an asteroid, a Cold War U-boat base. Or yes, a UFO. Peter Lindberg was more cautious. "It's not obviously an alien spacecraft," he admitted. "It's not made of metal," but he also swore his team to secrecy. Turned off cell phones, disabled GPS. Watched as a Swedish military vessel observed their operations from a distance. The scientific community pushed back. Hanumant Singh from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution examined the sonar data and identified 3 critical problems. crosstalk between sonar channels, signal dropouts, and poor calibration. He called the image virtually useless for identifying an undersea formation. Volker Bruchert, a geologist at Stockholm University, analyzed the rock samples and found rocks. Glacially transported rocks. Nothing more. Finnish planetary geomorphologist Jarmo Korteniemi suggested drumlins, natural formations created by glacial action. Charles Paul from Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute was blunter. Curious and fun, but much ado about nothing. But the anomalies remained. The arranged rock rings, the electrical interference reports, the 40 MHz signal, the second formation nearby, and the shape, that impossible perfect circular shape. In 2025, new multi-beam sonar images were released. Dennis Osberg shared them with the world, noting that what we'd seen was only a very small part of the data. 14 years after discovery, multiple expeditions, countless samples, and endless analysis, we still don't have definitive answers. What exactly is the Baltic Sea anomaly? If it's natural, how did it form with such geometric precision? If it's artificial, who built it and when? What caused the electrical interference reported by the dive team? Where did the 40 MHz signal come from? And why are there arranged rings of stone that suggest deliberate placement? The scientific consensus leans toward natural formation, glacial deposits shaped by ice and time. But consensus isn't proof, and the questions remain. Perhaps the most profound mystery isn't what's sitting on the seafloor, but what it represents. In a world we think we've mapped and measured, categorized and explained, the Baltic Sea anomaly reminds us that the unknown still exists, that there are still places, even in familiar waters, where the lights don't reach and the answers haven't been found. Whether it's a quirk of ancient ice or something stranger, it stands as a monument to the mysteries that remain. Waiting. In the dark. 300 feet down, for someone brave enough to find the truth. The Baltic Sea anomaly sits there still, unexplained, unclaimed, a circle of stone in the crushing dark. Maybe it's natural, maybe it's not. But in the end, the question might matter more than the answer. Because as long as there are mysteries like this, resting in the depths, defying explanation, there's still wonder left in the world, and wonder is worth the search.